I'm just going to wait a little bit longer to make sure the stream is working. It should be on now. I'm just going to test. Yes, it's working. Welcome everyone. It's great to be back here on YouTube live. This is always a special thing, and especially doing these contests, I'm enjoying it so much. And the entire Yes, I'm a Designer team, we are having so much fun with these. So glad that we started doing this a couple of months ago. And so this is our third contest. And again, as you can see on my screen, there's a lot of submissions. I don't even know exactly how many, but I think it's over 50. And it's great. It's consistently very good, each of these contests, in terms of the turnout of the participants. And there's people who has been working on all of these contests. So we have contestants who took part in all three of them. There's some new names in this one. There's some of our pro member students, also other students joining these contests, which is always great. And that's, again, one of the aspects that I love about this, is that it's a great little challenge for both who just follow us here on YouTube, or watch, or maybe read our blog, or just simply learn from our free tutorials and free resources. Plus, also we have our students who actually learn from our courses and who take part in our pro membership program, which I will talk a little bit more about later. But for now, I wanted to mention also that the MILANOTE board is available, and the link is in the description below, so you can actually see it yourself, all the work that's been submitted while I'm going through this these entries. And one thing that I'm going to change a little bit this time around is that I'm going to start with our favorite designs. So instead of working our way through the weaker ones going to the better ones, I'm actually turning things around this time. So I'm going to spend a bit more time talking about our favorite designs, that the ones that really stood out to us. And then I will try my best to cover everyone's work, so at least have a little bit of time for everyone's work. And I will still only announce the winners at the end. So I'm not going to make it clear who are the winners this time. Again, we have 3 winners, and we will talk a bit more about the prizes at the end. And I can just see Peta is asking, I have your design here. I believe this is your design. I'm just going to zoom closer. I'm keeping an eye on the chat, by the way. Is this the updated version, Peter? While I'm waiting for you, I'm just going to continue. So the board, the way I put it together, or Shumi put it together from our team, is that it's actually divided into 3 categories. On the right, we have designs that are the strongest and only needs a little bit of tweaking to really make them stand out and work as a professional book cover. In the middle, we have the entries that really still very good, but need a little bit more direction, a little bit more thinking, and just refinement, further refinement. And then we have the ones where, here on the left, where there might be some good ideas and good initial concepts, but they just need a little bit even more refinements and work and changes. And I'm going to talk about those. There's some very specific issues that is not just specifically for this contest, but in general, we start to notice the same recurring problems with contestants when they submit their work. So it's not just the work itself, it's also important how you present your work and how much you share of the thinking process that went into the work that you've done. These are all very important aspects, and I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to show examples of both good and bad examples of these aspects. But also another important thing, I wanted to point this out, that although we allow people to submit multiple entries, we prefer for everyone to wait until they have, maybe, let's say, you decide to do 2 or 3 different variations. Don't submit them until you have them all ready, and then submit them together as a single PDF. That's much better, easier to manage for us as well, and it feels a bit more professional that you didn't just jump back and forth making changes, but you actually waited until you had everything ready, and that's when you submitted it. Since there is no going back and forth between us and you, it's not like a client where you have to submit the work, get feedback, and then continue working. There is no point in submitting too early, because it's just simply in terms of a contest, you should wait until you really polish and refine your work. Now, there is of course a big difference if someone is a pro member student who is part of our community. They can share their work with the other students, get their feedback, and then further refine it before they actually submit to the final contest. So there is a bit of an advantage obviously for our own students. However, we normally don't give them feedback until this actual review that we do. Now, let me not spend any more time, and I just double checking and the comments if there's any additional questions. Yes, so your work is here, Peter. It's all good. And then Robin. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So, as I said, let me start here on the right with some of the stronger designs. And this one is from Lexie. Now, Lexie created a really nice pattern. It's not clear whether it was drawn by her or not, but it definitely has a very distinct style and cohesive style. So I believe this is actually Lexie's drawings, or maybe she used some stock assets, I'm not sure, but it definitely works really well as a pattern, and it works really nicely on the cover as well. So there we can see how it looks on a mock-up. Very nice mock-up, by the way. It's a good find. And then let's just jump here into the actual PDF. So we can see a couple of interesting solutions here. I'm going to bring up my brush on the screen just so I can take some notes. Yeah, so what I like is that although this is the spine here, this section is the spine, we can have this green from the spine continuing on the back cover. So it nicely ties the two things together. And then we have a nice separation between these. So we can just see a couple of additional mock-ups. It's the same thing. And then we have the illustrations. Let's just zoom a little bit closer on this. So I believe these are hand drawings scanned and then used. Live tracing was used on it, or image trace in Illustrator, but I might be wrong. And now this is one of the first things that I would mention, that it would have been great if Lexie left a little bit of information on this, like this big page here, right? We have a big page of just elements, which is great, but there could have easily been a text box edit here, maybe on the right side, just explaining the workflow behind this, because it's impossible to tell nowadays whether something has been generated, or it's a stock asset that was used, or maybe it's something that the person created. So yeah, always make sure, especially if you put the effort into something, make sure to make a statement about that. And there will be some entries where this is more clear. So yeah, we have some information from Lexie, but I don't believe it is about the process itself. Just the fact that the brief was very inspiring. But yeah, so Lexie, you've done a really good job. One thing I want to maybe just mention a bit more in detail, if we focus on the cover, I like this font a lot. This font is really nice. It's a condensed font, so we call any font that's width, the character width is narrower than the usual proportions. We would call it a condensed font, and it's a very nice condensed font, very subtle like texture effect on it as well, so it's like a bit, feels a bit hand drawn, but there's also some really nice standout details like these curves on the G, the curve on the A and the K and the V. These work really well, and I believe this is part of the font, so these are attributes of the font. I don't think, again, this was customized by Lexie, but if it was, then again that should have been mentioned in the submission. So these little refinements, if you do like customizing a font, for instance, you should definitely mention that in the brief, because no one knows all the fonts that are out there. Like, I don't think I've seen this font before, so I wouldn't know whether it was customized or not. So if you put any extra effort into design, always make a statement in your submission. All right, so I can see that someone wasn't seeing the stream, but it's working now. Okay. Yeah, and it's a nice font pairing, by the way. I also like how the two different fonts were used as part of the same same sentence here, the real kitchen. So we have that condensed font and then the other sans serif font. But like here again, we can see this pairing, the title and the tagline works really nicely together. And I like the fact that there is an ample amount of negative space around the text, so it really helps to separate it from the pattern around it, so it has a really nice, good balance. Everything is centered. That works well as well. I also like the fact that this little reddish, I believe it's a reddish, is showing up here as a separator between the title and the tagline. Okay. Or not tagline, that's supposed to be the publisher, I guess. Yes, okay. So, Lexie, really nice work. Now, moving on, we have one of our previous winners, Maja, also submitted work for this contest, and it's no surprise that she's done a very nice job again. Out of the two versions, so we have the dark version, and we have the brighter, more like warmer version. I would probably say that this is what I prefer. This is, to me, feels something that it's more likely I would pick this up from a bookshelf. But also in terms of the layout, I think it's better. So if I zoom a little bit closer and see them side by side, you can also let me know in the chat what you think. Which one would you prefer, the one on the left or the right? I feel like this typography as well works better. I really like the subtle angle on it, and while on the other one, I feel like it gets lost a bit, especially because black background on the book cover and then a black box on top of that doesn't stand out much. Maybe what would have been good is to have this box, this frame here, having white background. Then it would have really stood out from the whole thing. Or maybe have the text set in white and make it bigger, like really fill up the space, and that way you don't even have to have a box around it. I think that could have worked well. However, I think generally your illustrations are again the main selling points here. It really is a lovely set of elements. I really like this text, the way you wrote this, My Vegan Kitchen. I think that's really good. The other one is good too, but I prefer this one. Has more character, more approachable, more friendly. I feel like it works better with the whole theme. And I can see some of you saying the left. You also prefer the left. Yeah, so very, very nice work overall. Really like it. And yeah, I like the way these elements are overlapping each other, blended into each other. That's also like a nice touch. Okay, so Maja, great job as always. And here's a nice mock-up. Let me just show this again. In a little bit bigger version. Yeah, I think it looks great. All right, moving on. We have Sarita. It's the first time she's taking part in any design contests, and she's very new to design and softwares in general. So having said that, that being the case, I feel like she has done a really, really good job. I'm not sure if you are here on the stream or not, but yeah, you definitely have a very good eye for proportions, contrast and balance. There's a lot of things here already that really work well together. And yeah, like Nicole is saying, is a nice vintage style. The illustration is really nice. I believe that could be an AI art. The reason why I'm saying is because there is like steam coming out of freshly cut vegetables. That doesn't really make sense. So that's the typical type of thing that an AI, generative AI would do, unless I'm mistaken and this steam is supposed to be something else. But yeah, most likely this is a generated illustration, but that's not a problem. The main thing about using generative art in your designs is that you have to really look for any details like this, what I just mentioned, the steam, that is not supposed to be there, or it doesn't make it look realistic enough. Even the vegetables might need a little bit of refinement, and also what he's doing, it almost looks like he's sharpening the knife while cutting the vegetables. So that's, yeah, like at first glance, these generated images look great, but then you can start to analyze it a bit more, then you start to notice lots of little problems. I can also feel like there is probably an extra finger there, although that could be the thumb. Now, actually, that could be fine, but this little detail here, I'm not sure what that is, that part there. Let me just highlight this. And that, again, I'm not sure which part of the hand is that. So yeah, although it's great, you want to refine these generated images as much as you can, especially if you place it on a cover of a design where it's really center stage, and people will be scrutinizing and analyzing it. What I really like about her submission, Sarita's submission, is that she really thought about a lot of additional things, like the copyright page is very nicely done, nicely formatted. There's even a forward page created. Then we have a half title page, a table of contents, and then we even have the layouts for the inside of the book. So we have the main body meta of the book prepared. We have left and right, again left and right, and yeah, so several pages created, and I believe even the text is updated for each of these. So clearly Sarita knows about cooking and preparing dishes. I don't know whether these images are generated or not. They might be, maybe not. I'm not sure. Again, I didn't look at them that closely. But all in all, I feel like here's a nice mock-up. All in all, I feel like there is nothing really wrong about this. Maybe one thing that I would mention is that if you decide to choose an image on the cover, either have it set to full bleed, meaning it goes all the way to the edges, or if you want to have it in a box, try to maybe at least have one side of it not being so clear with being in a frame. So have it coming outside of the box. So what I mean here is that the text, for instance, this text here, could have been maybe slightly bigger so it comes out of that frame. Like, for instance, this one here, this additional information or tagline is created as a different element that feels clearly it's in front of this frame, the frame that is created here. So it creates a bit of an interaction there. But I think it would have worked really nicely if this image was completely set to full bleed. And that way, maybe just this text needs a little bit more separation, like another box around it if it's not legible enough. The main reason for this is because the cover itself is already a frame. So if I just go back here, you should always consider the edges of your page being already a frame. And then within that, adding an image creates another frame. So if you can avoid creating multiple frames, unless it's very important and there is a reason why you are doing that, it's good to avoid that. So yeah, and that's just one quick mention here. I feel like that could have improved the design. Overall, really nice work, Sarita, so well done, and especially for the extra effort to go further than just the cover and doing more elements of the book. All right, okay, so now we have another really interesting submission by Adeyemi this time, who created two versions. So we can see the one on the right and the one on the left. Very different styles, and that's interesting because most of the time what I've seen from the same person, we would get quite similar designs. There's just subtle variation in the elements, while here it's like a completely two completely different directions, a bit more traditional one and then a very modern one. And I actually really like this modern one. We haven't seen much of these modern styles in the amongst the submissions. So yeah, this is more like Adeyemi also created something more traditional that you would see for cookbooks, while this one really stands out to me. I really like the simplicity of it. It's something like here in the UK, Wagamama is a restaurant, like Oriental fusion restaurant, which has the star part of their branding immediately came to mind, and also because they serve some of their dishes in these type of bowls. They have a very nice branding, by the way. If anyone wants to check it out, you can have a look online. It's with W, so Wagamama, whoever doesn't know it already. However, when you do abstract and simplified geometric designs like this, it's very important to get the proportions right and make sure that whatever you are representing comes across and it's easy to understand what you're doing. So in this case, maybe a little bit more just hinting of vegetables would have helped. It might not have to be so obvious, but maybe a little bit of maybe this element here. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. Maybe if that was a leaf, let me just show this quickly. So if this was a leaf, that would have helped already. And that's probably is enough. But one other issue that I have here is that the kerning or tracking is really off. For this particular font, I would have definitely kept more space between the characters, especially because there's like more space between the H and the E, and then I'm not sure why on the other ones we don't have that amount of space. So yeah, improve the kerning, especially on a title. That's extremely important, especially with all capitals. When you have text set in all caps, it's even more important. But yeah, really nice work otherwise, Adeyemi. I really like this modern style. And since we are talking about modern styles, another standout work that we got was from Christine, who is a self-taught graphic designer from Berlin. And she also put a lot of effort into this contest. She has done many variations, and she's showing how she structured these layouts. So really well thought out compositions, trying to balance the right and the left side of the page, also the top and the bottom. So a lot of thinking process went into these designs, and there's, like I said, there's many variations. So if I just open this up or maybe zoom a little bit closer, you can see a better look at all of these 9 different designs. Now it seems that Christine chose this version as her favorite, and that's probably one of the strongest ones, I have to agree. However, I really like this one as well, this one here at the bottom. So let me just highlight this with my red outline. So this one as well, I feel like is very strong. And I also like this one here. Very minimal, but it somehow still works. So I like that one too. Now, one general feedback that I have for Christine is that it's a bold choice to use strong black color on food. It's not your common color for food, apart from like soy sauce and a couple of additional things that are black, but it's not like a natural thing to see black on food, apart from obviously if it's a plate or if it's a pot, then it's perfectly fine, or the chopsticks. But the food itself being black, set in this monochrome style, is a bit risky. Because it doesn't look that appetizing. So I can't really tell whether this is actually some kind of pasta or maybe some vegetable. And this, since this is a vegan kitchen, I would expect this to be either vegetable, at least have something vegetables in it, or maybe just the way it was prepared. The pasta is maybe made of vegetables, who knows? But this is all not clear. So having black featured so heavily on food, I'm not sure if it's the right choice. It is very good style and I really like it, but I don't think you should have used so much black. Maybe use black and green, like the combination you have here with the green and the black. I think it goes really, really well together. So maybe you could have the chopsticks green, black, and then the food itself could have been green, especially if it's something to do, some kind of vegetable which can be set in that color. However, I understand that this is supposed to be like a minimal, reduced, limited color palette, but that's just my opinion. Like again, here we can't really tell. It almost looks like I don't know, like a screwdriver and then some wire wrapped around it, because it's black. It's immediately the associations in our head change depending on the color. So minimalism and simplicity is always good. It works really well in terms of aesthetics, but you have to always think about the topic of your designs. And in terms of food, you have to think of appetizing colors, and you have to use appetizing colors as well. But yeah, I agree, Camilla, the compositions are great. So this is a great example of, you can have great compositions, but if one component, in this case the color palette, doesn't work for the specific theme, then it's not going to work as well as some of the other entries. But still, I feel like, Christine, you have a lot of potential, so make sure to keep working on future contests that we will be doing, because I would love to see more of your work. Yeah, the handcrafted font works really well as well. I agree. Okay, so now we have another entry. Let me show this one first. This is from Tina, and she's one of our pro member students. First, let me show this version. Now, one feedback to Tina, and this is also going to everyone else: if you ever submit work, always make sure to submit it in high resolution, especially when it comes to like a cover where you would have small text. This is the best resolution that we have available. So Tina probably reduced the PDF size or something like that, which made the image or the cover really low resolution. And that's a shame, because I would have loved to see more details on this submission, because I really like it. I really like the cover. I love how the text is written in between the lentils. I believe they are lentils, but even that can't really tell 100% sure, because how low resolution this is. I also love how the spoon is part of the text. So the word my is on the spoon, almost like engraved in it. And then also I like how brave the colors are, like this purple with the yellow, and then there's obviously lots of greens. And then we have that cool rustic table behind it, which creates the backdrop. Really nice fonts as well. One thing that I wouldn't use is a font like this, all caps on longer text, like a full paragraphs. Shouldn't be written in all capitals, especially with a condensed text like this. It works. This font works really well for all the other elements on the front and the spine, but I wouldn't use it on a longer text like this. So that's just one quick feedback on that. But Tina's other design is also unique and really stands out. So I'm just going to show this other one that we've just seen as a mock-up. But then we have this one. So this is how the cover looks like. Let me just zoom on to this a little bit more. Again, unfortunately, quite low resolution. But look at that brave color combination. I really like this. So having that monochrome background compared to Christine's work where we had monochrome food on colorful background, this is the opposite. And this is what I mean. Even though it's a very strange color on the burger, that is actually the point. It's a vegan burger, and it's very clearly made into a vegan burger by having even the bun green. And I believe this is a real photo, but maybe it's AI generated, I'm not sure. But it's a really cool shot, and it definitely would catch my attention if I was looking for a vegan cookbook. So it's great. Like, your cover is like part of the advertisement. It's really what is going to sell the book. And if you can make something like a bit shocking or strange or weird, that always helps. And the typography is also very unique. I'm not 100% sure what it's supposed to represent, but it's very like high energy, very vibrant, that those purples and yellows together. It probably reminds me of like fire, or like, I don't know, like, like a fire, maybe fire in a fireplace, or let me know what it reminds you of, but it definitely is a unique design. It's still legible, although it's highly decorative. But it works really well. The only thing I'm not 100% sure about is the alignment of the word my. I feel like that's a bit off, especially because everything else is right aligned, even the text at the bottom. So the word my being in the center, and not even exactly in the center, like this would be the center here. Not 100% sure why it was placed there. If I was doing this, I probably would have placed it here and made the text a little bit smaller. So it could be like small my and then vegan together, or maybe place it up here, or just simply place it on the right, have everything aligned to the right. But yeah, I feel like I would most likely place it here and then have the vegan written in a roughly similar size at what we see right now. But yeah, again, such a shame that it's low resolution. But it's also worth mentioning that we have also the back cover design and even the flaps, the interior flaps. So really nice. It's like a really nicely branded look on this book. It definitely stood out to me when I went through all the entries. Okay, so Verdant is mentioning that the I guess you meant the styling of the main title doesn't really fit with the style of the book. It's true, but since the whole style is very like I don't know, like unusual, in a way, in a strange way, it works even with the rest of the book, in my opinion. But yeah, I have to admit that maybe it's a little bit too much, tries to compress a little bit too many things into the same design. Now, moving on to the next one, we have Peta, who submitted 2 work, and out of his 2 designs, I prefer this one. This is, again, a very nice combination of illustration and actual photography. I love how the food here is completely masked out, so separated. It doesn't have any frames around it. And I like how it's combined with the illustration, like the fork holding up the photo, but then there's also additional illustrative details around it. And I also really like how it works here on the left side. This like small composition, if you just concentrate on the spoon and the masked out photos that we have here and all the little illustrative elements around it, it's a very nice composition. The circular motif repeated on the cucumber, the tomato, and this salt jar, and then the chickpeas. I think it just really works well, has a very nice flow to it, and also frames the text really nicely. I also like this font, whatever is used here, this handwritten font, and I'm not sure why it is not used on the title. I can see it used here on the taglines, but I think the title font, the font on the title, is the one that puts me off from this cover. For some reason, it just doesn't work. It's a bit overkill, like having the word "my" in all capitals with a handwritten font. That's just like clashing. Like it doesn't. Like if you are using a handwritten font, it needs to look like, you need to make me believe that it's been written by hand. And in this case, it's clearly a font that is not used correctly. So yeah, you have to be very careful using script fonts or handwritten fonts, because you have to be very good at how to use them properly. They have to be connected, the letters, like here, this actually looks better, while obviously here, like I said, this word disconnected doesn't work well. It doesn't feel like a script. So yeah, this part is the one that's weak, and it's really an important part, the title of the book, that should have been very strong. And I think this font would have worked well, just made it bigger, or maybe a different font, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's the one that is the problem here. And also the same thing here, again, it doesn't look good on the cover. Yeah, and that's a good example of a very good direction, really nice colors, everything is good. It's, again, one thing is off, and that really throws the whole thing off, unfortunately. And the other entry from Peta is good, is also nice. It's a very different style, more illustrative, with flat illustrations. Really cool style, by the way. If this was illustrated by Peta, then really good job on it. I prefer the title here for sure. It definitely works better. But in general, I prefer the other cover. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. But I feel like it's a little bit too childish. It's almost like a kids book to me. Yeah, it doesn't feel mature enough. This book has to have a little bit of more maturity, I feel like. And the other one nailed that balance a bit better. Okay, let's move on to, let me have a quick look here on the ones that I wanted to highlight. Okay, so I have another really nice design by Akil, who I mainly like the color combination on this one. Really brave choices. It reminds me of like Caribbean food, and the colors and the whole vibe of it. I really like the title as well, the way it's overlapping, the words are overlapping, and there's even like a little integration of the elements of the word kitchen into, it's like wrapping around the G, the descender part of the G. But I also like the fact that we have this little illustration here on the right, which is using the same colors that's used throughout the book. So instead of a full color illustration, it's just limited color palette of yellow, green, and red, which is used throughout here. Now, what puts me off on this particular design is the back cover. So the front cover, I feel like works quite nicely. However, the proportions of things feel a little bit too crowded. So let me just do a little presentation on this in Photoshop. I don't have the actual working file, but I'm just going to open this quickly in Photoshop. Let me just get my file up in Photoshop. Okay, there we go. So if I close these panels, and this is something that we always do for our pro members, the students that learn from us. We actually review their work more this way, where I start making changes live to show them what could be improved. So I'm going to start with a duplicate layer, just so we will be able to switch back and forth between the two. And what I'm going to do here is to show you, if I make, by the way, I'm just going to drop another layer here with that background color. Yeah, so if I start changing the sizes on things, immediately you will feel everything gets more balanced. So that was the first thing for me. If I put the rulers in, we can see more where the spine is. So if this is supposed to be the spine, right, then already, just simply by reducing the blurb on the back cover, we start to feel more at ease. Then I'm going to make the same changes here. These should be also reduced in size, probably using the same alignment as what we have there for this text. I'm not going to align it perfectly, but that already works a little bit better. Then the title repeated on the back is not that necessary, but if it's used like that, I would make it smaller and maybe just place it somewhere here, or it could even go at the bottom, making it even smaller, something like that. All right, yeah, I feel like that's enough. And then this can come maybe a little bit further down here. Now the same thing with the here on the spine itself. I would change the order of things. So for instance, this one here, right, this text, which is the title itself, should be the one going in the middle, and then this green part needs to go on the top, and that needs to be much smaller. So if I just put this down, let me make this a bit smaller, like that. And actually the whole thing should be turned around as well. So I'm just going to also select this bit here. Should be like the other way around, the reading order of this, and then this one as well should be like that. I'm going to fix these quickly, and then we will be able to compare them to each other better. But yeah, so I just delete that one there. So simply scaling and putting things in the right order, like this Caroline Barker's name should be in one line. That easily could have been done, just simply fitting them together like that. My Vegan Kitchen in the middle, and then this tagline, if obviously it's usually the publisher who shows up here at the bottom, but if we want to use a tagline, we could have done that like this, and then just simply have that one green, that part. Just going to do that green like this. Okay, and then the front cover is the same thing. There's not enough negative space. That's the main problem here. So all the elements look good, and the colors and everything look good. It's just there's not enough negative space. So see, immediately, just simply by giving everything a little bit of breathing space, we already start to get a better sense of what's going on here. So we have our tagline. We just drag that onto a separate layer. Plant-based recipes. I really like that subtle shadow effect on this tagline. That works as well. And then now I feel like I'm not going to go any further than this, because this is already getting closer to how I feel like it could work. So look at this, before and after. Before and after. Yeah, Jules saying you don't like the shadow on the green box, and on the plate the shadow is missing. Yeah, it's true. The leaf has a shadow, but the plate doesn't have a shadow. Should be consistent. I agree. And it's probably not necessary to have that shadow there, you're right. But yeah, and if there is a shadow, it should be consistent. But yeah, we can see already, same elements. I haven't done any other changes, just simply move things around a bit, scale them up and down, giving it a bit more negative space will immediately make the whole thing more balanced and more professional. So yeah, there's just a quick demonstration of this. Is like a common issue, that's why I showed it, especially with the weaker designs submissions we get, not just for this contest but all the other contests before. Always think about negative space, the proportions between your positive and negative elements, and then also you have to think about the hierarchy of the elements. So like in this case on the spine, the tagline is much more powerful and takes much more space than the title itself. Then it's not clear what's the title. It feels more like this is the publisher and that's the title. So yeah, the scaling and hierarchy extremely important. But just to mention, for Akil, I also really like the way it is put together, like showing the elements that were used. That's really nice. Like I can see which fonts were used, the color palette, and also in terms of proportions of the colors was dominant, secondary, and then primary colors. Really nicely done in that presentation part. Now, moving on, we have 2 more designs here in this category, and then I can move on to the other categories. So Tracy is someone who's joined our pro membership recently. So I think I don't know exactly when she joined, maybe a month or 2 months ago, can't remember now, but she's been on our pro member webinars as well, and she's great. She's also in our design sprint, which we are doing this live seminar series in January, which I'm really looking forward to, where I will be working directly with our students live on projects together. And by the way, before I go any further, I just wanted to also mention that on the board, if you go on the board on the MILANOTE board, you will find this box here on the left side. We have 2 of our courses for a limited time. We created this little offer for anyone who's watching the stream, and also if you are interested to learn from us. We have these 2 courses put together, which we feel like are the strongest and best choices for anyone who wants to improve their designs. So this is the Graphic Design Starter Bootcamp course and the Design Theory series. Now these 2 courses together is around like 70 hours of video training. So it's like these are both huge. I worked, probably the 2 together took me 2 years to record and put together. So it's massive work went into this. And I still feel like this is probably the best place to start. So if you are still new to design, this is the best place to start. So if you are interested in this, we have a special discount for anyone who's watching. And if you are watching the recorded version, you might still have this discount. We might not have it for forever, but have a look at it. Right now, we discounted it down to, I think, 55% less than the original price. You can get this as a bundle, the 2 courses. So have a look at that. And also there is a link here for inspiration. Shumi found a really cool site, or she knew about this site that worth mentioning, where it's a great inspiration if you are into illustrating food or maps or gardens. This site is specifically for this. So it's like a collection of artists doing these type of illustrations. So it can be a great resource for inspiration, and also you can submit your own work and you might get featured. So highly recommend to check it out. The link is on the board on the left side. So if you're looking for this and you look at the board, just scroll all the way to the left and you will find it there. Okay, so jumping back to the designs we have here, Tracy, as I started talking about her work, I really like this cover. It's very, I don't know, very retro, the style, probably like 60s maybe, 50s, not sure exactly what. The font itself is also strongly hinting at that retro look, but obviously the kitchen itself as well. And the interesting thing is Tracy actually told me this on the last Pro Member webinar. She used, I think, Midjourney, or I'm not sure which tool she used, but she used generative AI for the illustrative elements. But what she was doing, and it's a very clever thing, no, actually, I think she used Firefly. She created one element, let's say the carrot, and then she used that as a style reference for future generations to be able to keep or maintain the same style for all the other elements. So that's a very clever way of keeping consistent results. So most of the tools like Midjourney, Firefly has this feature, the style reference option. So yeah, experiment until you find a good style that you like, and then keep using that as a style reference. Or yeah, it's called sref is the code in Midjourney. But yeah, in Midjourney you can use character reference, style reference, and image reference, I think it's called. But yeah, so referencing the same thing helps to keep it consistent. I really like the spine. I think it works really well. This font really stands out, this green and white, nice, very nice combination. And I also like the pink. That's like, I wouldn't have thought of using pink with green, but it actually works really well here. And one thing that I want to highlight is that Tracy has done an amazing job at presenting her work. So the slides within the PDF really feel like a real presentation. It's something like if she gave a speech, this could have been used for the presentation. And this is what you need to consider or think about when you submit your work. So you want to explain your thinking process, the initial inspiration, then the illustration style itself, again explaining exactly that what I was talking about, then the preliminary designs, the color palette, and then the final designs with mockup, and then finally the actual flat design shown here. But what's even better, that Tracy went even one step further. She also created a MILANOTE board, for which the link is here in the PDF itself. So I actually put this on my MILANOTE board. I saved it onto my MILANOTE board. And look, this is what she did. So she actually included these photos she took. She actually went into a bookstore, took some photos of books that she liked. And by the way, this is something that I always do, especially for print design. It's so easy to just go into a bookstore and look at some references there. And sometimes you will find much more interesting examples than if you just go on Pinterest. Believe me, like tangible, real products holding in your hand will inspire you so much more than just looking at flat images on Pinterest. So I always recommend to do that. Go out there, have a little bit of research, spend some time, and that's exactly what we can see here. And then also some additional references found online, and then the most important information that she wanted herself to be reminded of, and even like a little checklist to make sure that she went through all the requirements, what's must included, that she could just tick off as she went through it. Because that's also, remember, one important thing, to remember what was in the brief and keep following that. So there's a lot to learn from what Tracy did here. She did a lot of things really well. I think her PDF is one of the strongest one that was submitted here, but also her work is really strong and stands out. But yeah, like a mediocre design presented extremely well will still stand out more than a good design with bad presentation. Okay, so a very well presented, a very good presentation can really bring up the value of your submission. That applies to pretty much everything in graphic design. Now we have another submission. I don't believe we've got work from Marta before. She's from Bratislava, and let me just see. No, she may have been on the previous ones. Maybe she was just watching them. I'm not sure. But anyway, the unique thing about her submission, let me just open up the PDF so we can see it a little bit better, is that she did a lot of things on paper. Not just her sketches, but she even painted the elements and she cut them out. So you can see it's more of like a craft direction of creating the elements and then using them as these cutouts on the cover. So you can see these are all handmade. So these are not digital. Maybe they've been enhanced digitally, but they are all handmade. And I love this because, especially with generative AI, it is becoming increasingly hard to stand out and be able to create something that feels original, that feels unique. So this approach obviously is going to help you to be as close as possible to something that people will be immediately able to tell that it's genuine handmade design. So that's what really stands out here. And I love these elements and the composition as well. I love how it's written here on the top, illustration Marta, or illustrator Marta. I can't really read that writing. That's the only problem. But then we have the title written on the sieve, My Vegan Kitchen, and then the author, and then the tagline, all part of these elements. Really, really nicely done. Now, the main problem that I have, and this is also not 100% sure why it was done this way, but on the back of the cover, so if I just come to this down here, just zoom a little bit closer to this one. I love the tomatoes here. I love the salt, especially the little sprinkles of salt particles dropping down. I love the fork as well. And I love the general composition. Why I don't understand, and this feels like a mistake, having the text overlapping the tomato. It almost feels like a website when it's not responsive enough, and then it starts to overlap where it shouldn't. So that's something that I don't know whether this was intentional or not, but it feels very off. If there were more things that were overlapping the text, it would feel more natural, but this way it feels like a mistake. And generally, this shape, I'm not sure what it's supposed to represent, because it doesn't look like a plate. It doesn't look like a leaf, although it's closer to a leaf, but it still doesn't look like a leaf. It doesn't look like any other vegetables, to be honest. So it's just a very strange shape to be used in such an important element, the blurb on the back cover. And especially because it has such a high contrast from the background, it really stands out. And also because there is a text wrap forcing the text to be constrained into this shape. So the shape itself gets such a big emphasis while I don't really know what the shape is. So that's my main problem here. I feel like if this shape was an ellipse and it made look like a plate, actually, again, drawn by hand, cut out and then used here on the back, I think that would have worked much better. And also, don't feel restricted to use text wrap when you have a shape like this or like a circle, because even if I have a circle here, I would still just have the text in the middle, not following the shape of a completely curved object, if that affects the readability of the text. remember, this is readability, not legibility, because I can read the text. It just doesn't feel comfortable to read it, having it written in this way. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So this is very bad, this section, but besides this, I love the general design, especially the front cover. I think is beautiful. So Marta, you've done an amazing job. Well done, especially for the extra effort. Alexander, if you haven't sent your work in, then may still be some time. I still have around an hour to go through the rest of the work. So if you submit it now, Shumi is also watching this stream. She might still be able to put it on the board, maybe somewhere where I can still find it. But yeah, I'm sorry if you missed that deadline. But the next one, hopefully, you will be able to submit on time, and then we definitely will be able to review your work. Okay, now here we have a beautiful design by Scott, who is also a self-taught designer, and he's thinking about moving into a creative career. So he's not actually a creative at the moment. It seems like he's working in a different sector, but he has done an amazing job on this. And not just the design itself, but also the presentation. And you will see that in a second. I mean, look at this color combination and those really cool, like textured, hand-drawn elements. So it's a very minimalistic illustration, but works so well, really fits the style of the book, works very well with the handwritten font or text. And I really like the hierarchy, the composition. It just feels really good. Like there's nothing really I would change here. I also like the sleeves, the way they are designed. Yeah, there's really nothing that stands out. Maybe one minor thing. I probably would have used a different color for the author here. Maybe I would have written that in white or black. Yeah, probably black would have worked better, or maybe even just introduce another color like that. Purple would have worked better here, just to make sure it's even further differentiated from the title. I understand that the size of the text should already set it apart, but maybe that would have helped a little bit to separate them more. But yeah, besides the fact that we have the vegetables in this hand-drawn style, what additionally makes it work really well is how both on the front and the back cover, there is consistency in using only outlines for the dishes, the frying pan and the plate. As you can see, they are using only outlines, which is really cool. So even though it's the same style, it still has like an additional depth or layer within the illustration itself, for a very clear visual separation, further emphasizing the vegetables themselves. So yeah, it's like almost like a secondary read, all those additional elements, so they don't take up too much visual weight. And that's very important. Imagine this frying pan being black and completely filled with black, or like a dark color, even completely filled with white would be overpowering the design. So this visual weight is on the cover in general is very well distributed. Great color combination. And then, like I mentioned, look at this. I'm just going to open this one as well. So you might think that this is an alternative version, right? An alternative color combination, by the way, works really well as well. But no, these are actually both planned to be in the design, because one is the sleeve and the other is the hardcover. So Scott was the only one, I believe, who thought about creating two variations or two different designs, one for the sleeve and then one for the hardcover. So this further improves the whole submission, because this really shows the understanding of how publishing works, that most likely you would have to think of both of these things, and it's already been thought about. And even the fact that we have a nice complementary colors used between the sleeve and the cover, so there's a nice like like transition when you take the sleeve off and see the cover, but there is still connection between the two because the same yellow is used on some of the elements. So yeah, really, really well thought out, nice work. And this presentation is really nice as well, by the way. I love how already I can see the colors here really highlighted. I can see already the style, even though I don't see the design yet. Within the first slide, I already have a feel for this design. It really prepares me for it. And then it's just further explanation on the fonts being used and why it's been done this way, and then the hardcover at the end. And yeah, it's just, this presentation, by the way, is beautiful. Really helps me to understand how this would work. So yeah, this is beautiful, right? Yeah, I can see many of you are saying you love this. Okay, so that's a wrap for our favorite picks. But there are still some really good designs here. Now I'm going to spend a little bit less time on these. I will move a little bit faster, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't be able to talk about these in more length. It's just there will be a lot of things that would need to be repeated. So I wanted to make sure the most important things that we've seen, like most important or most common problems, I already covered on the best examples, and then we can just remind ourselves of them on these additional examples. Okay, so we have one here. Let me just start from the top and then we can move further down. So we have one here from Anne. Let me just open this, which is nice in terms of color combination, but too busy. Like having a very strong pattern like that overpowers the typography, makes it very hard to read. Another quick problem here, the text is too close to the edges. It needs a little bit more breathing space, so just needs a bit more margins. And in general, your background illustration, although it's nice, it needs to be toned down. So it needs to be desaturated, reduced in opacity or something like that for the text to work on top of it. So yeah, it's overpowering. Nice pattern, but overpowering at the moment. And I just want to quickly have a look. Yeah, Anne is just showing the same thing on different mock-ups. And yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It has a good style, but it would need to be improved. Why I said like balancing the backdrop. Backdrop shouldn't overpower the whatever needs to stand out. We have another design here from Bavi, who actually is already studying from our bootcamp and theory courses. And one of the things that stood out to me on this is this unique style of illustration. Again, a little bit childish, I would say, in certain aspects, but it's still unique. Like it definitely stands out. I like that tiles on the wall as well. It's unique, and like how the cupboard is so emphasized on the back, and especially I like the fact that we have the same division of the cover. So we have the oven on the first, and then the kitchen counter on the other, but they are the same height. So if you turn this book around, you would have that exact same division there. And I would have definitely used the same on the spine as well. So it really is connected. Like that could have been maybe like a small narrow space within the counter, the kitchen counter, where you put your like, I don't know, sauces and the salt and the pepper or something like that. I think that would have been really cool. And that actually having an illustration, like a bigger illustration on the cover, would really help to make it stand out if someone is only seeing the spine in a bookstore. So that's also something worth remembering, that there is a lot of negative space here, like this space and that space up on the top. So if this text on the top was a little bit more compressed, then we could have included that cool illustrative design here, which by the way would tie the front and the back together. But yeah, really, really nice design. One thing that I noticed is that, especially here at the end, that there is a problem because the front cover looks like the back cover. unless this is a different writing direction. It's supposed to be for, I don't know, like an Arabic audience, then this would be always the front cover. But right now this looks like it's the back of the book but showing the front cover, but then the same layout is used for the back cover as well, or same mock-up. So yeah, you have to be careful about doing that, because then it's just confusing. So if you are doing mock-ups, make sure to pay attention to that. Yes, now Peter has done a really good job, considering you didn't have much time. You said that you only had 1 day to work on this. Considering that, it's very nice, very modern, elegant design. The biggest problem that I have with it is I am not sure about the initials here on the top. Why was that necessary? The V and the K, especially, I guess, yeah, like that's the initials, the vegan kitchen. I understand that, but it was completely unnecessary. I think it just creates confusion, and it really it's an unnecessary complexity to the design. So I would have definitely removed that. I love the type that is used on the title, really like tall, extremely condensed text, but still legible. Even though it's on the strong photo on the back, it's still legible. The plant-based recipes for a healthy lifestyle, I would have used the same font for this. This font is much better. I just would have used the same font and write the whole thing in that, and probably would have placed it up here. I don't feel like it works well to have it set as like a baseline on that big division line. I don't think that's necessary. It feels a bit forced. It could have been somewhere up there. And then this is definitely off to me. The pattern, it's that chalkboard texture that we have here. I believe that's supposed to be chalkboard, or I don't know, maybe something like the frying pan's texture. That is so nice and simple and like minimal, and then you have a very busy, strangely vintage pattern under it that really sets it, or like it's puts me off from this design. That wouldn't be a problem, by the way. I can clearly tell that it's the generated pattern. But yeah, that's just if you just kept it the same way as the top. So if this would have been repeated here, that would improve it so much, and just simply removing these would have also helped a lot. Also, I wouldn't recommend using center text on the sleeves. I feel like it makes it harder to read. Keep either left or right aligned. It would make much more sense here, in my opinion. So yeah, I wouldn't use center aligned on the sleeves. But overall, really nice design. And if I look at it on the mock-up, it really stands out. It has so much potential. That's mainly what I want to say here. Okay, now moving on, we have Eklas submitted this, who has been working on the previous projects as well, I remember. And I really like the style of the cover, the front cover. This illustration is really nice. And that's probably where the appeal stops for me. The rest of the designs feels very generic, very stale. There's not much interest to it. The font itself is nice. This font is also good. Combination of the fonts could work, but for some reason it's just lacks originality. Also, it's just common mistakes like using hyphens where there's definitely space for non-hyphenated text. Completely unnecessary to use hyphens here. That was like an immediate put off for me when I looked at the back cover, and then like the positioning of things, like here the text, if I just this element here is just strangely positioned too close to the text. It doesn't feel balanced enough, but overall the illustration itself I really like. So yeah, it's just a shame, but let's just take a look at the PDF if there's anything else there. Yeah, it's just a another look at the cover. But yeah, let me move on. So Akil, although good work on the illustration, the rest of the cover I don't feel like worked that well. Yeah, Verdant is saying too many different fonts. I guess you are saying this for this one, or maybe the previous one. I can't tell now. I can't keep looking at the chat all the time. But yeah, we have Amandine or Amandine, not sure how to pronounce the name, has done a really nice job on this cover. I really like the title. I think the way the vegan stands out and wraps itself around the word kitchen looks really good. The proportions of the cover looks good as well, and in general the back and the front cover works well in combination. And then if we look at the PDF, it's actually just the same thing repeated. Yeah. Here's another thing. If you submit a PDF, make sure you don't have so much empty space on your pages. You can always crop your pages later. Like this page should have been a landscape format, not a portrait. It's unnecessary empty space in the pages. Shouldn't be submitted like that. Okay, now moving on, we have a nice work submitted by Wendy. This is the cover itself, but in the PDF we have more information. Now Wendy also did a lot more backstory. We have the font exploration, sketches, image exploration, and then goes into the actual design. And we've seen another similar design already to this, where it's more photographic backdrop with the wooden countertop or kitchen top, and then we have the text over it and some illustrative details over it. I think it works well, but it's not that original. Like it's nice. The main thing I like here is this diagonal line in the background. Let me just draw over it. So that diagonal line of that chopping board works quite nicely. But I think if it's done this way, it would have been nice to connect to the back cover as well. So continue the chopping board overlapping and actually continuing the whole thing on the left side. So have more connection between the two, because it's already connecting to the spine. Why is it not continuing on the back cover? I feel like that would have made more sense, unless the back cover is completely different and doesn't include the texture in the background. But yeah, nice approach. And then we have Ivana, who did a very unique design. It's more whimsical, but I really like it. Let me just zoom closer. So I don't know whether this is something that Ivana actually illustrated herself, but it seems like she did. And I really like it. I really like the style of this waiter holding a plate with a meat-eating plant. That's just like really witty, but also it's almost like, yeah, it's taking an offense. Whoever wants to have vegetarian food, this is a little bit of like I don't know how to say this without swearing. It's a bit offensive, could be offensive, but very funny. I feel like if someone gets the humor, I think this would really stand out. So it's really saying plant-based recipes, but yeah, it's clearly a meat-eating plant. I don't know exactly the name of this plant, but it immediately made clear that it is. But yeah, very clever. Clearly Ivana has a knack for editorial illustrations. I could imagine this style of illustration go throughout the book, and be funny as well. Again, like each dish or category maybe could have a funny illustration that is similar to this. So I can imagine this book working really well, and you've done a really good job with the colors and the font as well. I think Venus Flytrap, well done Camilla, that's the one. So yeah, it's really fun. And again, original. It's really different from all the other covers that we've seen so far. Okay, now moving on, we have Melissa, who did this cover. Again, it seems like it's hand-drawn illustrations. Let me try to zoom a little bit closer. Hand-drawn illustrations, but the color palette is very like just dark and doesn't really work well together. It doesn't make me feel like I want to choose the food from this book. I don't know, it's not appealing. Some of the covers had so nice colors, really like vibrant, made me want to look inside the book to look at the illustrations or look at the contents. Here, I don't feel like it's not appetizing, the cover. It's not because of the illustrations. They are nice, but it's just the typography and the colors. They are just not interesting enough. They are a bit too dark and too monochrome. The same thing with this one. Alexander, you are the one who said you couldn't submit your work. But we already have your work here, so maybe we already added it. I don't know. But yeah, hopefully this is the one that you meant, you wanted to submit. Again, it's the same thing here. The color combination. I understand you were trying to go with the like natural organic colors of plants, which is like brown and green, but that's not really appetizing in the way it is presented here, and it doesn't really work well together. Brown on a murky green is just not appealing visually, and also it doesn't make me want to again look inside the book. And also the order of the covers is wrong again, so this should be on the right, the back cover should be on the left. So again, that's just the wrong order. This other design looks a little bit better, but this has the opposite problem. Here it's a little bit too much colors or too much variation of hues. It's there's no clear direction. It's almost like all the possible colors are thrown into this. So you either limited yourself too much, or then you let loose and you have all the hues in there. And it actually shows in this here. So if I zoom closer to this, we can see too many hues, like literally the whole color wheel is in there, while here it's just a very murky color palette, like I said before. Yeah, Jen is saying you want to say yummy when you're looking at the cookbook. Exactly. That's what we need to aim for as designers. And here is a like a nice opposite, where really we have nice color combinations, and also immediately we have, this is by Robin, by the way, who is one of our pro member students. I love the chalkboard style, and I feel like the composition works really well. There's one big problem, a very big problem, is this tagline. It's stretched font, but even the font itself is so alien to this beautiful hand drawn cover. I don't know what happened there, but it almost feels like a very good designer or chalkboard illustrator did an amazing job here, and then someone in Word added something there, like almost like as if this book has been translated in a different language and someone messed up a beautiful design. So I don't know exactly what happened here. Even this part here, the illustrated by Robin Swaby, I don't know how to pronounce your name, is also like squashed and stretched. That's not necessary. Just write it on an angle, but don't stretch the text. That's stretching the characters is very off-putting. Like that's definitely something you want to avoid. So once this part is fixed and this part is fixed, this would be amongst the best ones. But because of this, unfortunately, I couldn't feature it there. And also, I couldn't feature it there because there are additional problems inside, on the back cover. So if we go in here, let me just scroll down a bit. So remember when I said avoid having frames on covers, because the cover itself is already like a frame. Here is like, that's an epitome of that problem. We have frames, like 3 frames, and there's also even a frame within the spine. So it's just like unnecessarily locking your elements up into these divisions or divided segments, instead of having them flow nicely together and create something more appealing. Like this feels like when you use too many blocks, especially like text frames, visible text frames within a design like a cover, it feels like almost like I don't know, like a how to say, like a whiteboard. It feels like a whiteboard, so it's almost like an unfinished design. It's like, okay, I planned to put these things here, but I haven't actually refined it yet. That's what it comes across. Not to mention that whenever you introduce a frame that's clearly a different color from the background, you also have to introduce an inner margin or indent on the text, which just takes up unnecessary amount of space in the design. So here we have to think of keeping the text further away from the edges of the frame, not having it so close as it is right now. The same thing I would have to do here. So that's just like unnecessary. You are restricting yourself further. When if you just take off that background color, it would have been easily kept the way it is. But if you have a frame, then you have to keep the text further in. Within the text. In web design it would be called padding. In print design we normally say that's the inner margin of the text frame. Okay, so all right, let's move on to the yeah, actually Robin has another design as well, by the way, this one. Unfortunately, again, the same issues exist here, too much frames going on. But more importantly, we have a beautiful illustration. Robin created this illustration. It's hand drawn. The initial sketch and then the way it's been updated. This would have worked in its actual colors, in this blue color, would have worked so well as a nice minimal cover. But then instead, we ended up using it in this digitally colorized version with all these strange colors behind it, like, and gradients and shadows. There's just too much things going on here, while the illustration itself in its original sketch stage looks so nice. I love these, even the more rough versions of them, but especially this one. Again, I think this is in the PDF, so I can just, without doing anything with it, yeah, here it is. So we can see it in a little bit bigger size. This one I really like. Which one is better? Probably the one on the left. Yeah, if that was on a cover, let me just drop this into Photoshop. Okay, let me just drop it in here. If this was on a cover, I'm just going to create a new layer underneath this, fill it with white, or maybe let's fill it with this color. I mean, look at that. That already is awesome. I can imagine text around it. I can imagine it going with this theme of this blue hand-drawn quality, so much better than messing around with the vector version of it. Vector illustrations work for specific styles, but this is so much more original. And I feel like we will discuss this in our graphic design and illustration trends, which we will be releasing in January, that the more organic, the more handmade you can make your designs, the more unique and original they will feel, especially nowadays when we have so much generated stuff. So yeah, stick to stuff that you create by hand and feature it. Yeah, okay. Kalanu, you are saying, you're not sure, you don't like it. I like it much better than the what is ended up being used here. It's not bad. I'm saying, like, probably if the background is clear white or something clear, it would have worked better. But with all this mess that we have here, it's a little bit too much going on for me. Okay, now let's move on. Yeah, you can use AI, definitely. AI has a lot of great use cases throughout the design process, but when someone can draw so well by hand, that's something you need to feature in your designs. Okay, let me move on to the next ones. So we have Jen, and Jen is here on the live stream, so I wanted to make sure we have time for your work. I really like your design, especially I like both of them. So there's one that is a little bit like darker tones and a bit more on the like the minimal illustration style. Really nice font. I feel like a bit everything is too big, especially the name of the author is a little bit too big. I would probably have a bit more space between the elements, but and also maybe on the spine have a little bit more separation. Maybe the word by could have been made a bit smaller just to break it up so it's clear where the author's name starts, or maybe the author's name could have been done in this green, darker green would have helped. But out of the two designs, I like this one more. I really like that illustration you created of the different herbs, and you have a full screen view of this here as well. And then your title seems like painted. I believe you've done this, probably you've done it in digital format, but maybe you've done this on paper, I'm not sure, but it looks really nice. I especially like this combination here on the top. The Caroline Barker text maybe could have been a little bit smaller. I feel like that could be smaller. Now that I'm looking at this, it seems actually that this is a font. Maybe it is a font because your A's look exactly the same there at the bottom and here. So yeah, it's just really fooled me and made it look like it's handwritten. But even if you are doing something that is supposed to be handwritten, I would make sure to connect those letters. So just draw over them, and even here, just draw a little connection between the E and the V. So that would make it even more harder to guess whether it's a font or handwritten. But yeah, this particularly, especially with that subtle texturing on it or coloring on it, it would have made it even more like if it was nicely connected, that it's actually painted instead of just being a font. But yeah, you are saying it's a font. Yeah, but all in all, I really like the way the plants are done in an unusual angle, on like 90 degrees rotated. And again, I would have kept a little bit more space. So if I just draw over this, I would have probably kept this much space empty. Like all of this, I would have kept empty and just used that right side for the text. So right now, the text and the illustration gets too close to each other here, here, and here. So having a bit more space, more breathing space there, I think would have helped. And the same thing goes for the back cover. Same thing here, text gets too close. And also, Jen, you should remember this already. I told this many times before, don't use all capitals for longer text. So this is all caps for the whole entire blurb. It's fine for smaller text like this here on the top, but this one should be written with normal sentence case text and left aligned, not center aligned. Again, center aligning is fine for smaller amounts of text, but longer text you should always align to whichever edge is closer. Like in this case, the left edge is the obvious choice, especially because you have a more organic side here with the plants, so you can have a bit ragged edge, which feels more organic on the text itself. So then they would meet nicely, the text and the illustration. Yeah, body text, no caps. That's actually really good. I like that. That should be a phrase I will use more often. Okay, cool. So moving on. Jen, again, great work. I love, like I said, I really like this, but both designs are good. With a bit of refinement, these would be really strong. Katerina, one of our Plus members, did 3 quite different designs. Maybe 2 of them are a bit more similar, but still, all three of them feels quite fresh and different. And they are all good. There's no major issues with them. They are just maybe lacking a bit of polish, but in general, there's a lot of things that work really well here. So that's one of them. I'm just going to go through these quicker now because we don't really have that much time left. There's this one. It's a bit overusing the fork element, I feel like, but generally not bad. I really like the font here, the strong text with a very like rigid frame around the text as well. I think it works really well, very simplified. I particularly like the spine. I think it works really well with that strong line in the middle. Again, very minimal. I like these carrots set up as like a little crest there on the left. And yeah, there's nothing really that wrong here with anything. I think they are working really well. Out of these 3, I would say this one is my favorite, the one at the bottom. So yeah, really good work, Katerina. Janelle has done 2 variations, 2 covers. One, which I feel like, again, this feels AI generated image. I might be wrong, but it does feel like that, which is not a problem. It's actually quite cool how all these foods were arranged and really tightly put together, creating a really strong composition there on the cover. And the text is also really nicely fitted in. Like here we can see it's a good example of not having to stretch text for it to work. Like here, it's really nicely following that circle in the middle, but it's not squashed or stretched. Works very well. And thanks to the drop shadow, which is subtle but still helps to elevate the text, makes sure it's still legible and we can read it. And I really like, this is probably my favorite aspects of this design, I really like how the chopping board is used as the frame for the blurb. So if you are using a frame, this is a creative way of doing it. And there's the knife as well there, which is quite cool. Yeah, so one thing here is it's a little bit too dark in general, the whole cover, but that's maybe just a stylistic choice. But then we have a very different style also by the same person, by Janelle. Not bad, but I feel like out of the 2, I preferred the other one. That one was more interesting. This is a bit, I don't know, things are just floating around a bit. It's too high, too bright in general. It's too high key, the whole thing. That's white plates on white background with white spine. It's a bit just, yeah, and again the back in this case is just a very generic box, doesn't really stand out or make it interesting. Now from Anna we have a design that if I only seen this final cover, I wouldn't really stop and think about it too much. But because I saw the work that went into it, and from the PDF I saw this really stood out to me. This would have been such a cool concept of having a grid-based cover, wherein in each grid square you have an ingredient in a very simple geometric form. And then the text is also written within that grid. I think that's such a cool idea. I would have loved to see this. So if Anna, you have the time, I don't know whether you joined our community already or not, but if you have the time to work on this, I would love to see this because I think it has so much potential. You can submit this in our community. By the way, I'm just going to show our community quickly for everyone, just so you can see it. We have over 2,000 members in our community, and as you can see, it's a very lively community. We are submitting, I mean, there's lots of interesting work being submitted there on a daily basis. We give feedback to each other. It's not just me, but also our students critiquing each other's work, and we are sharing interesting things like what's happening in the industry or useful inspirational sites and so on and so forth. But yeah, so if you join this community, you can do this by taking one of our free courses or free classes. You just have to go to Yes, I'm a Designer. So whoever wants to try this out, just have to go to Yes, I'm a Designer, free learning freebies, and then here just choose any of these guides or sign up to one of our free courses. We even have a full illustration project course where I show from step by step creating a vector illustration from a sketch, or how to build your portfolio. You can learn about that. So if you sign up to any of these, I'll just drop this link here in the chat as well. You can then join our community for free, and then you can submit your work if you want us to give some feedback on it. Of course, it's not guaranteed. Our pro members are the ones who get guaranteed feedback from me on a monthly basis. But yeah, this is one of the things I wanted to mention here for Anna, that this design just for some reason doesn't come together. I don't want to go into detail on it, why not, but the other concept that you had really, I think, would work really nicely. Okay, now we have Laura. This is a nice design as well. I like the sketches. There's some really good ideas there in the sketches, and then the design works quite nicely. I like how the silhouettes are used for the title, and then there's more illustrative like pattern around it. But there's a couple of weaknesses here. Again, center aligned text, lack of negative space, potentially, maybe a bit too much colors, not much consistency with colors. Then we have Deborah's work, again, too limited color palette. It's not a yummy design, like we talked about this before. Doesn't make me want to pick this up, doesn't make me think about food. Yeah, it's just a little bit too just monotone. There's nothing really that stands out. So yeah, with video colors, it's good to be subtle, but being too subtle is going to make the design feel more boring. Compared to that, we have a very colorful style from, let me try to pronounce the name, Oikonomu, I guess, who is one of our past pro member students, did a really cool style, especially for this third cover. I really like this one, the symmetrical but still abstract illustration where there's a lot going on, but it's still very cool and interesting. And even the text seems to be handwritten, especially the one here on the cover, on the spine. And there's some texture as well on it. So yeah, really cool. I think this has so much potential. With a bit of refinement, this could have been one of, again, amongst the highlighted ones. And I don't like the back cover, and there was a couple of things on the front cover I don't like, but generally the illustration itself is really nice. Okay, this one as well is quite original, by Angelica. I love how these elements that clearly are not from the same photo are piled up together, creating this strange off-balance composition on the front. This is similarly creative to the one with the Venus plant, Venus flytrap plant, which, yeah, it's just like stops me and makes me think about what is going on here. Is it actually put together, or was it Photoshop together. So yeah, it's a very cool thing. And yeah, putting things that naturally or normally wouldn't be balanced in a composition like this is it grabs the attention, and it makes us think, and it makes us wonder what is going on there. So that's really effective. In terms of typography, there's a lot of problems, like we have not enough contrast on this word. We also have a strange overlap here, which doesn't happen on the rest of the text. So again, it feels like if it only happens once, it feels off. We have hyphenated text when there shouldn't be hyphenation. And lots of little things I can pick on. But yeah, I love this combination here. And it made me think, and this is something maybe if you ever work on a book cover, you can come up with a composition where you use these plants and actually turn them into something else. Like, for instance, a spoon. For instance, I can imagine plants put together into a spoon, or it could be arranged in the shape of a plate or a pot or something like that. So that would look, or even like an apron and the chef's hat or something like that could work quite nicely. Okay, so moving on, we have Jason has done a nice job in general with the cover, but too dark, I would say. Like, immediately, that's my main concern here. It's just too dark. Yeah, although there's pop colors, in general, the whole cover is just being very dark and muted. That's the main problem on there. But I can give you more feedback on this. Maybe since you are a pro member, Jason, I would recommend to submit this through the community, and then I will review it in more detail in the pro member webinar. Because, like I said, there's a lot of good things about it, but maybe I can show how I would improve this. So I think I've went through all of these here in this category. And by the way, while I'm working on this, at the same time, I asked Shumi to put together next to each other just the covers, or just some of the covers that we liked. And yeah, I wanted these to be the same size, and also even on these ones, just to show the covers, the actual covers, because it would be just cool to see them as a grid, literally lined up next to each other in the exact same size. That would be useful to do. But yeah, I can see that you're still working on that, so I'm not going to jump there. We have a little bit more time left, probably like 10 more minutes. Camilla, you said I missed your design, so let me have a look. Was it in the center? I'm actually going to do a search. Camilla. Oh, is it not here? It seems it's here, but I just can't find it. Have you seen it already, your work, Camilla? I can't see it at the moment. Is it on this side? Just trying to go through it quickly. I may have missed it. Midsection, okay. Then let me go back. Oh, yes. Sorry. Yeah, I felt like I missed something here. Camilla, sorry about that. You've done a really cool combination of this muted monochrome colors and then the standout details, the chilies and the word vegan. I really like this. I think it has a very strong layering sense to it. These elements really pop from the design. I would say if you do this, I would still use more highlight on the word my and kitchen, because right now the word vegan stands out too much. So these should be maybe set in red, since you have the red and the green used to highlight elements. So maybe my and kitchen would have worked better in red, and maybe even the author's name should have been either in green or red. I think that would already improve this. The spine looks good, and then we have a mock-up, how it works. There's the back cover as well. Not sure about the grape. The grape is a little bit strange, especially with the chilies. If I include ingredients on the cover, I probably would still think of a dish that they could work well together, even though it's not an actual recipe. But you still should think about, like, if someone looks at ingredients or food, it somehow needs to connect to each other, not just random choices of food. So I probably wouldn't feature a grape, even though it's divided between the front and the back. But even on the front, I can see that grape. So yeah, I think it's still important to make sure that ingredients can work in a dish or in a recipe. Yeah. That's my main feedback here. Otherwise, really nice combination. Like I said, I can imagine this word vegan, or the title, embossed as well, and that would make it even more, or debossed in this case, it would make it even more stand out from the cover. I think, yeah, that's definitely a very nice contrast there. Okay, so moving on to these designs here on the left section. Unfortunately, most likely we won't have time to go through these. The main problem with them is I would just have to repeat the same things that I mentioned before. So even if you are in this category and I haven't reviewed your work, it's because it has one or many of the things that I mentioned before as issues. So yeah, there's some nice designs here, don't get me wrong. So there's some that has quite a lot of potential, but either it just doesn't stand out enough, or just some weird choices in there, or additionally some other problems. Like here, this heart shape works really well, but then we have a strange detail of a frame that hasn't been masked out properly, like this image here. Yeah, like just again a bit strange combination of some photos and then an illustration. Not sure what's the purpose of this illustration here, so no consistency. Yeah, like things like that. Or for instance, these submissions by Vishwantan, he submitted so many different PDFs, and it's very hard to see what's the difference between them. So don't submit your work until you are ready. And you can have a PDF with showing multiple designs, but having multiple submissions just make it very hard to track. Okay, what's the newest version? What was the latest updated version? So I don't even want to look at these, because yeah, all of this is from the same person, submitted many times, and it's great that you put so much effort into this, but just wait until you get to your final variations. You can submit multiple designs, but keep it in a single PDF instead of submitting it so many separate times. That's just already puts me off from looking into it. Yeah, this is, again, a nice starting point, but many of the things that we talked about already, I can see problems there. So yeah, I'm not going to spend any more time on these. 5 more minutes before we wrap up. So it's time to announce the winners. That's the main thing. I don't want to spend any more time holding back on the winners. So this time, our overall winner, maybe to no surprise, is Scott. And even based on the chat, I could tell that many of you really liked his design. I feel like this is one of the most strongest standout designs. It's still not 100%. There's still a couple of things that I feel like could be improved. But Scott, especially being a self-taught designer, not being in the creative industry, has done an amazing job. And we are happy to offer him 3 months of our pro membership, which gives him access to all of our courses and also to mentoring by me and the team. So yeah, congratulations, Scott. Looking forward to working with you as one of our pro members. And then second in our contest, I chose Marta. Now, I feel like I might need to justify this a little bit because there's quite a lot of things that I mentioned that are not good on this cover, but I love the effort that went into hand painting these things, cutting them out, and creating a composition that's unique. Like I said, the back cover needs work. There's a couple of things like the spine as well. I'm not 100% sure about the color choices there. The text used here on the illustrator's name is also not perfect. But in general, I feel like it's a very unique style. Really nicely put together, and I feel like Marta has done a very good job. Once again, just as a reminder, there's the process that went into creating this cover. Oh, Scott, you are here. Amazing. I'm so glad you are on the stream. And yeah, once again, congratulations also, Scott. You are getting a lifetime MILANOTE access. That's also for our overall winners for every contest. We are partnered with MILANOTE. We've been friends with the creators of MILANOTE for years, and they were very generous. They gave already last month lifetime access, lifetime pro access to MILANOTE, to the overall winner. You are also getting that. So just email us, and then we will be able to set up everything for you, the pro membership access and also the lifetime MILANOTE access. Marta is getting 2 months of pro membership access. So congratulations to you as well. And I can't wait to work with you, and also can't wait to see maybe a refined version of this cover design, because that's one of the other things that I like to really help everyone, especially our pro member students. If they have a really good work that has so much potential, I want to help them refine it before they include it in their portfolio. But this definitely is a portfolio worthy illustration or work that just needs a little bit of refinement. Okay, and then lastly, we have Tracy, who is already a pro member, but she deserves to be the third in this contest. Especially, remember, I loved her presentation. Really nice. Not too long, that's also important. You don't want to long it out too much. 5 simple slides, well, very nicely presented. I understand the whole backstory, the why, all the whys in this workflow. And remember, there's not only the PDF, but there's also even a MILANOTE board showing the whole research and just a very good design approach in general to how this has been put together. And it's a very standout design. I think it's very unique. I love the spine. I would pick this up from a bookshelf to see, and even once I see the cover, I would also be interested to see what's inside. And even though it's heavily relying on AI generated images, I think it still works and it's used in the right way. By the way, Tracy is saying that she wants to learn to do these illustrations by hand, but in the meantime she is using AI art just to practice and to understand how to incorporate them in her design. Okay, so yeah, that's the 3 winners, and Tracy, obviously being a pro member already, will just have an extended free month of pro membership added to her account. If I missed anyone's designs, like I said, that is because I wanted to concentrate on those designs this time that really is close to being a professional design, just needs a little bit of push. Whoever haven't seen their design is most likely on this side of the board, so on the left side. those who see their designs there, please just make sure to rewatch this stream, and you will understand, because I reference all the mistakes done with these other designs. So it's just simply repeating the same mistakes would appear in these designs on the left side. So congratulations for our winners. Thank you so much for everyone who joined us. And I want to make sure that it's mentioned, we are planning to continue these contests in the new year. We haven't decided on the next contest yet, but most likely it's going to be announced in January, like mid-January. It might be, the deadline might be for February already, so we want to give at least 2-3 weeks for everyone to work on it. Yeah, we want to do this contest probably every month or every 2 months. We will see the frequency, how it will work. But the good news is, since these contests are doing well, and that's mainly thanks to those attending and taking part, we probably will have more sponsors, which means we will have more prizes. I can't say who is interested at the moment, but we have a couple of big brands we are talking with, so there might be bigger prizes coming up in the new year. So keep an eye out for our contests. We have a dedicated page for it on our website. If I just jump back to our website, similarly to where you can find the freebies, go to free learning. This design contest is right here. And then keep an eye on this page, because this is where we will be announcing them. You can also sign up to this form, through this form, to be notified whenever we announce new contests, to make sure you don't miss out on it. So yeah, thank you so much for everyone. Okay, so if your designs are not here, that's probably because we didn't get it until the deadline. That must be something that went wrong. Maybe when you uploaded it didn't show up. Or yes, Shumi is saying it's on the left section. So it's most likely is in here on the left side. I mentioned already, I think I already mentioned why I don't review your work, because you just submitted so many different variations. It's very hard to keep track. Like, yeah, 3 submissions, it's too much. You should have waited until you got things right and then submit a single PDF instead of submitting so many times. All right. Thank you so much for everyone taking part in the contest. I will, if we don't speak until the next contest, have a lovely holiday season. Enjoy spending time with your families, and yeah, spend some time relaxing, and then have a nice, inspired and creative new year. And yeah, we will see you soon. And thanks again for joining us, and I hope you found this session useful. Cheers. All right. Bye for now.